They had been married for 11 years when she found the emails. Not scandalous ones, no professions of love, no hotel bookings or secret plans, just a long, quiet trail of messages exchanged over time. Some went back years. They weren't hidden exactly. He hadn't erased them. But they weren't shared either. At first, she didn't understand what she was reading. A thread of friendly notes between her husband and a woman named Claire. The name felt vaguely familiar. He had mentioned her once, maybe twice. An old friend, someone from before. But these messages were frequent, long, carefully worded, sometimes poetic even. And there was something in the rhythm of them that made her stomach tighten. He told Claire about things he didn't tell her. Thoughts, memories, quiet reflections. Nothing inappropriate, but too much to be innocent. She closed the laptop without finishing the thread, then reopened it, then closed it again. The screen's brightness stayed with her longer than the words. She sat in the dark kitchen for a while, letting the quiet fill the spaces that now felt thinner, stretched. It wasn't a scream of betrayal, more like a whisper of absence. Something subtle and undeniable. She slept poorly that night. The kind of sleep that's light and surface level, broken into fragments. The next morning, she moved through routines as usual. Breakfast for the kids, lunchbox packing, inbox checking. But everything felt slightly out of sync, as if she were moving through a version of her life from which she had quietly stepped out. For the next few days, she didn't say anything. She watched him more closely. Not suspiciously, just with a heightened awareness. The way someone looks at a painting after realizing there's another image hidden beneath the surface. She noted the cadence of his speech, the way his fingers hovered over his phone, the fleeting glances into the middle distance when he thought no one was watching. He was the same, kind, attentive in the ways he had always been, made her tea in the mornings, picked up their daughter from piano lessons, laughed at the right moments. Nothing had changed, except everything had. She began noticing the small separations, the spaces that had always been there, but that now felt cavernous, the way he paused before answering deep questions, the way he shut down certain topics gently but firmly, the fact that he never talked about his past unless prompted, and even then, only in fragments, the way he used silence as a shield even in their warmest moments. Claire, it seemed, had access to a fuller version of him, the unguarded version, the one who wrote long emails full of nuance and vulnerability. She began to imagine the shape of their connection, not as a threat exactly, but as a reality she had never been invited into. She started to wonder if emotional loyalty wasn't, in some ways, more intimate than physical infidelity. It wasn't an affair. She knew that. But it felt like something else, just as deep. A private corner of his life that had remained untouched by their years together. A room she hadn't even known existed. She didn't confront him. Not out of fear, but because she didn't know what to say. What was the accusation? That he had been honest with someone else? That he had preserved a connection she wasn't a part of? That somewhere between chores and school drop-offs and mortgage payments, he had chosen to unburden himself in a place she couldn't follow? She tried to measure her own response. Was she hurt? Yes. Betrayed? Maybe. But also strangely calm. As if she had found a missing puzzle piece that didn't belong to her picture. And now, with the puzzle complete, the image was different than what she had believed she was building. In the weeks that followed, she began looking at her marriage differently. Not coldly, just clearly. She saw the shape of their life together, its patterns, its blind spots, the way they had become so good at living side by side that they had stopped reaching across. The way they had built routines and rituals that looked like closeness but often substituted for it. She started keeping more to herself, not as a punishment, just as an adjustment. If he had a private world, maybe she could have one too. She reread old journals, took longer walks alone, bought herself a ring, nothing flashy, just something that felt like hers alone. She began writing again, small entries at first, a few sentences each night. Things she'd observed, things she hadn't said out loud in years. She also started talking to an old friend she hadn't spoken to in a long time. Nothing dramatic, just long messages exchanged quietly over time. A kind of balancing, though she never said it out loud. Eventually she asked him, not angrily. Just one evening while folding laundry, she said, "Do you still talk to Claire?" He didn't lie, said yes, said he always had, said it had never been more than letters, but they had shared a kind of language, that Claire had known him in a way no one else had. She asked why he never mentioned her. He said, "I didn't think it mattered." That was what stayed with her the most, not the messages, not the past, but the fact that she hadn't been seen as someone it would matter to, not someone who needed to know or deserved to. just someone adjacent. They didn't separate. Not immediately. Life continued. School runs, grocery lists, tax forms. But something shifted. She stopped sharing certain things. Not to punish him, but because she understood now that intimacy wasn't just about honesty. It was about inclusion. About the choice to let someone see all of you, even the parts that seemed unimportant. He noticed. Of course he did. But he didn't ask. And she didn't explain. Their conversations grew more polite, more efficient. The warmth remained, but it felt reheated. Not stale exactly, just pre-decided. What surprised her was how natural the distance began to feel. Not like estrangement, but like adaptation. Like the way your body adjusts to sleeping alone in a queen-sized bed. Or how you start liking the quiet of your own thoughts after years of compromise. She no longer reached for him out of habit. She no longer expected to be asked how she really felt. She started traveling alone. Weekend visits to friends, short retreats. When she returned, he welcomed her warmly, and that was that. No curiosity, no questions. Just a smile and a shared dinner, and then silence again. She learned to love solitude, not as a reaction, but as a resource. She took up photography, capturing shadows and small stillnesses, doorways, cracked sidewalks, half-filled glasses, and afternoon light. She realized there was an entire interior life she had neglected while focusing on someone else's. Years later, when people asked her why they eventually split, because they did, quietly, sometime after, she never mentioned Claire, because it hadn't been about Claire. It had been about presence, about being let in. She always described it the same way. We just stopped growing in the same direction. And she meant it. It wasn't bitterness. It was clarity. Like realizing you'd been reading the same book in different languages. And sometimes that's all betrayal is. The quiet act of keeping someone just outside the door. Not slamming it, not locking it, just never inviting them through. Just standing on the other side, waiting for the silence to be enough. Thank you for listening. Until the next heartbeat in a story. Subscribe and stay for more love in every word.